Do I start?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And aren't we blessed to start our morning with such beautiful music? Thank you, Olga. Welcome to First Parish Northborough this morning. I am Reverend Lynda, brought to you today by the color green and the letters LGBTQA and I and maybe P, the letters that keep widening their circle of concern. Whatever your letters or your colors of the rainbow, know that you are welcome here in our circle today. And now, if you have a chalice to light at home, you are invited to light it as I light our common chalice this morning. We light our chalice this morning to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for who they are, that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light our flame. And our call to worship this morning is by Otto O'Connor, called On a Holy Night in 1969. On a holy night in 1969, in an inn, also known as a bar, called the Stonewall Inn, a basement which has no running water nor safe fire exits, queer people of many colors and kinds danced together, for it was the only place where they were allowed to dance, at least permitted to, by the mafia who ran the inn. In those days, it was common for the police to frequent this inn, not to join in the dance, the underground celebration, but to send the dancers home and make arrests. When they would arrive, the lights would go on, the people would be lined up, and then all those in drag, all those who were trans, all those without proper identification, they were arrested and taken into custody. But on this holy night, that early morning of June 28th, the people said, "Not tonight." As they called them to line up, the trans women refused to go. And as the police began to beat and arrest them, and as the people spilled out from the bar onto the street, Christopher Street, a crowd grew to watch. And then as trans women, lesbians, and gay men were getting arrested, a yell came from the crowd, "Gay power!" And as a trans woman was shoved, she shoved back, and the crowd began throwing bottles at the wagon. And suddenly it erupted. For once, the people didn't line up. For once, the people said, "No more, we've had enough." It was almost as if that night, being pulled out of the darkness of the underground at Stonewall Inn one too many times, they said, "I'm ready to be seen." On this holy night, when the power of the oppressed rippled through the streets of New York, when queer people said, "No more," our world would never be the same. 52 years ago, it was illegal to be gay, to be trans, to dance and to love and to celebrate. And now, only 52 years later, here we are celebrating as a church. Gay and straight together, queer and straight together, trans and cis together, blended single parent, poly and traditional families together. All in this together. And so as we hear these stories of life and love and defiance and celebration, let us also remember and pay tribute to our movement ancestors, many of them trans women of color who led the first rebellion at the Stonewall Inn in New York City that night, a holy night. So happy Coming Out Day. Welcome to this joyous celebration. Bring your whole selves, your gay, lesbian, bisexual, straight, transgender, queer selves, your drag queen, butch and femme, cross-dressing, nail painting, nail biting, flannel wearing, tutu wearing selves, your queer gender, gender fluid, cis, agender, pansexual, quilt bag selves, and all the other identities that are and will be. And let's have a celebration, because joy is a rebellion too. Amen. Let us begin. You are invited to sing our opening song into our muted Zoom screens with gusto. This morning, we are a gentle, angry people. Our reading this morning is called Any Other Questions by Victoria E. Safford. People ask me sometimes, is this a gay church? It is a privilege to answer. Ours is absolutely, gladly, hopefully, and humbly, gaily a gay church. A gay tradition where everyone, including heterosexual members and friends, is welcome. Where everyone is needed, where everyone's experience is cherished as a sacred text. Because no one's experience of living or loving can be comprehensive. Because each of us holds clues the others need about how to live with dignity and joy as a human person. And none of us knows enough about that yet to be considered whole. It is absolutely a gay church, even as ours is a gay world, if you would look around. Gay church, straight church, people's church, a human congregation made holy by the holy hopes and fears and dreams of all who wish to come. Come in, we say. Come out, come in. We're all in this together. I will not speak of tolerance with its courteous clenched teeth and bitter resignation. I will not speak about acceptance of other people and some other kind of lifestyle. I can only look in laughing wonder at human life in all its incarnations. I can taste only in passing the breath of the spirit of life on my mouth and understand our common longing to breathe in deep, deep gulps of it. I cannot think of being anybody else's ally even, because even that implies some degree of separation, some degree of safety for some of us, not all. We are allied with no one and with nothing but love, the larger love, transcending all our understanding, within which all the different, differing, gorgeously various, variant, beautifully deviant aspects of ourselves are bound in elegant unity. I know that on some sad and disappointing days, these words describe the church that yet shall be, and not the church that is. I know. But I know too that that to answer is an act of creation. To answer this question, is this a gay church? And some others, is a privilege, a prophetic imperative, a joy, a duty, and a holy sacrament.
We've cleared off the table, leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
So let's say you have to read an
So I just got back from a few days in New Hampshire with a bunch of other ministers at what we called the Mind, Body, and Soul Retreat. Everyone there had to be both vaccinated and recently COVID tested. We masked in indoor spaces, but out of doors, eating together, and even singing in outdoor worship and around a campfire. Those were things that were available to those who felt comfortable with them. I want to tell you, these things that many of us who were there would not feel safe to do in a less controlled environment were really like manna to my soul, especially seeing people's smiles. I spent a lot of my time just watching people's faces, the masks that we need for safety in so many places, and for some time yet to come, probably. Those masks obscure our real selves, making it more difficult to recognize people, to tell what they're feeling, and even to understand what they're saying, especially for those of us who have learned through the past 18 months how much we really rely on lip reading to help us decode what we're hearing with these aged ears. It's a relief when you feel you have spaces where you can safely take off that which obscures parts of who you really are. Sometimes it can be life-giving and restorative. This week, I ran across this little story, What I Learned When I Came Out to My Asian Mother, by Kyung Mi Choi in Yes magazine. There was a time when coming out was the worst thing I could imagine doing to my Asian family. I was terrified to bring shame, guilt, and dishonor to them, to burden them with my truth. Even the thought of telling my family who I was made me feel very selfish. I told myself that I was silent about my sexual orientation to protect the family from judgment and discrimination. So instead of sharing my confusion and the struggles of exploring my sexual orientation, I distanced myself from the people, places, and things I loved. I left my students and career as a public school teacher. I left my home country, where there was no protection against discrimination based on one's sexual orientation or gender identity. I separated my personal life from my public life. During those 15 years of separation, my father passed, my mother got older and ill, and I had a wedding without my family's presence. Now I realize that those silent years created psychological disconnection between my family and me. Things shifted when I was already in my mid-30s. I finally came out to my mother, the woman who always put others first, who sacrificed all her dreams so she could take care of her own mother and children. Sitting in my living room, almost 7,000 miles away from my mother, I picked up the phone and spoke the most difficult words I have ever mouthed. Mom, I have something to tell you. something that I've been wanting to tell you for a long time. I am lesbian. Initially, she was shocked. She expressed her excruciating pain and disappointment toward me and herself, thinking that she wasn't a good Asian mother. She became silent for a while. Years went by. Then she slowly opened up, started asking me questions, listening to my stories, even meeting my partner. She ultimately replaced her feelings of shame and guilt with deeper understanding and love. What surprised me the most is that my coming out didn't end there. My mother started sharing her most painful stories with me. Her loss of her father during the Korean War, the legal battle of my grandmother's business, poverty, sexual assault, gender discrimination, and more. Ultimately, sharing our mutual stories of pain, confusion, and despair transformed our relationship with each other. Not all stories end this way. Notice that repairing her relationship took more than just sharing a few facts. I'm a lesbian, and I never dared to tell you. Yet that taking off of her mask was the crucial first step, and it could not happen until this daughter felt strong enough to take the rejection that she feared might come. And in this case, it did come. Perhaps she was sorry she had come out to her mother. I don't know, she doesn't say, but she had set up the conditions under which what she really wanted was most likely to happen. What was it she really wanted? To take off her mask of straight daughter, to be seen as who she fully is, to be loved and included and supported as who she is. Sometimes that never happens, sadly, but in this case, her mother slowly overcame her fear and began to ask questions. The deep work of digging down and cultivating a new, repaired relationship could begin. And in the end, this mother was able to take off her own masks, such as good Asian mother, and become more real and authentic with her daughter. Sharing their mutual stories of pain, confusion, and despair transformed their relationship with each other. The more they took off their masks, the more they learned to love each other. I think that is such a powerful message for Coming Out Day. No one should ever be pressured into coming out before they are ready to whoever they are ready to come out to. But everyone should be supported in spaces where they can be their true selves, at least somewhere. As the worship team was brainstorming for this service this morning, we weren't brainstorming this morning, but as we were preparing for this service, Dennis suggested the song True Colors. And I wanted a little background on this song and how it came to be adopted years ago as a de facto GLBTQ anthem. And so I started learning a little bit about Cyndi Lauper and how this song came to be. This woman who had always struck me as someone with pink hair and a voice I wasn't really always anxious to listen to. It's very unique. In fact, Cyndi Lauper once said in an interview that when she started out, someone told her, "You sing like a rat." She says, "I've always been weird." And she adds that she understands how life-changing it can be for folks when they can be themselves and know others will be honest back. On her way, on her life's journey from homelessness to stardom, she spent a year at Northern Vermont University in 1971. I didn't realize she's my age. At the Northern Vermont University Johnson's commencement ceremony, they've changed their name in the past few years. On May 18th of 2019, Cyndi Lauper gave the commencement address, and she thanked various teachers there at the university who saw her in the one short year she was there. She had flunked out, and now she was back getting an honorary doctorate degree from Northern Vermont University. And she thanked various of the teachers who were there at the time who really saw her, who saw her dyslexia as an impediment rather than a fault, and taught her how to read quickly. The teacher who saw her passion for equality, she marched into the radio station of the university and said, "Why don't we listen to women artists? There are lots of good women singers and I never hear them on our radio." And this teacher said, "Well, sounds like you could be a really good DJ for a radio show featuring such artists." This teacher, she said, really saw her and gave her tools and skills that helped make the rest of her life possible. And more than that, she says, it gave her hope that even someone as weird as me could have a fulfilling and meaningful life, that she was acceptable as she really is. And that's something all of us really need. There's a lot of things you can do for people. Cyndi Lauper went on in her interview, but you can see them. You gotta give them hope. She became a vocal advocate for gay marriage. The song True Colors was first performed as a farewell to her friend who had just died from AIDS. "The darkness inside you," she says in her song, "can make you feel so small. But I see your true colors, and that's why I love you." Her song has inspired so many, including the designer of the original Rainbow Pride flag. By finding her place, Cyndi Lauper has been able to help others find theirs. We yearn for the day. Oh, and by the way, the song is going to be, the True Colors song is going to be our postlude today, so stay tuned. We yearn for the day when we will all feel safe enough, will actually be safe enough to show our true colors, all of them, without fear of physical or emotional harm, without fear of being shunned or discriminated against. We are grateful that we aspire to be such a safe, welcoming community, and for the many ways in which we are learning to live into these aspirations. May we bring the richness of our true colors, our own weird, quirky, true selves to this community. May we honor the richness of the many rainbow hues that we encounter every day. May the divine in me always see the divine in you. Namaste. And as we pause for an offering this morning, I ask that you continue to give as generously as you're able to support our UU ministry and our commitment to the Northborough Community Meals Program, which was begun right here at First Parish and with which we are sharing our half plate in the month of September. Donation information is in the chat as we enjoy this offertory from Olga. And now I invite you to join with me in a responsive reading called No One is Outside the Circle of Love. In fact, that's going to be your part. No one is outside the circle of love. It's a litany based on a pastoral letter written by Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, the president of our UUA Association, on July 29th, 2017, and made into a responsive reading by Erica Hewitt. Now here's going to be your cue, like this, and then we say together, no one is outside the circle of love. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetrated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of the heartbreak of our world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalist not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down. Promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy, but no one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we're here to guide one another toward love. No one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. No one is outside the circle of love. Thank you. And now we go forth this morning, grateful for the gift of our lives and the gift of other people in our lives in so many rainbow colors. Each of us is created with dignity and worth. We honor the many ways that people live and love. Our common life is enriched when queer, transgender, bisexual, asexual, polyamorous, pansexual, lesbian, and gay people, when all people can come out, sharing the gifts of their sexual orientation and gender identity. Love does not exclude. We are all worthy. May we work to build a world where all people are celebrated and loved. May it be so.